Shear. So we had three shitas, and we actually had a whole discussion as to what it wasn't even part. It was a machlekes Amoraim about what the Tanoim themselves said. But just to summarize, Reb Meir seems to hold that avada shinui is koina, but there was a takana or a knas placed upon a goslin that you shouldn't benefit off of the geneva that you made, so therefore you have to give everything back. That was the knas that was made. But me'ikra adin shinu would be koina. So because of this chiddush that we learned in Reb Meir, we see that whether or not you hold shinu koina or not has no impact on whether or not the ganav gets to keep the shvach. Because on the one hand, Reb Meir said shinu koina, but you can't to the ganav and he has to give the shvach back anyway. And on the other end of the spectrum, we had Tanoim who held that shinu is not koina, but because of it, the koina hashovim, you let the ganav keep it. We even had such a extreme situation in the days of Rebbe. They said that someone who's a ganav doesn't have to pay back to do tshuva, and even if he pays back, people shouldn't accept that return from him. So you see, we have shittas in all directions. Then we had the shita of Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda, who both seemed to have held that shinui is koina. However, there was a little bit of a distinction between the two of them, and the Gemara was probing as to what the distinction was. The Maskana, our Gemara seemed to agree with Rav Papa, because the Gemara brought a Tanya Kavas to Rav Papa, that Rav Shimon has a new chiddush, that even though the Ganav gets to keep the Shvach, but he only gets it Lamechza L'Shlish Revia, similar to an Oris, similar to if I would own an ox and I would give it over to a person who is going to use it and make shvach out of it, and he would get a portion of the shvach. That's exactly what the ganav is. He gets a portion of the shvach, lemechza, l'shlish, u'lerevia. That was basically the sugi we learned yesterday, and now the Gemara was probing. The Gemara had two probes in Reb Meir. The first probe the Gemara had in Reb Meir, which we learned yesterday, is this, that they cancel him, that the Gazlan has to give all the shvach back to the nigzal. What if it was shogig? For instance, the Gazlan stole something, he sold it to an unsuspecting lekech, and lekech was mishabechet. Would the nigzal be able to take all the shvach back from the lekech as well? And the Gemara seemed to have come to maskana that it's only b'mezid and not b'shogig. And the Gemara came to that conclusion by the fact that a merchant or a craftsman who dyes wool, if he deviates from the will of the Bailam and dyes it red instead of black, he keeps the wool. And we don't count to him that the shvach goes to the Bailam. So you see that in the case of a merchant, which we consider shoigi, because Rashi says people don't know that you're not allowed to deviate from the Ratzon Bailam. So it's called a shoigig. There was no knas over there. And then all the way at the end of yesterday, the Gemara was probing another shaila in Reb Meir, and the question, in Reb Shimon, this that Reb Shimon says, the Ganav pays, the Ganav gets from Machzal Shishravi, he only gets a part of the Shvach. Does he have a right to demand the actual part of the wool? In other words, if the Shvach was wool, or do the Bailam just give him money to pay him off? And right at the end of yesterday, we learned that the Bailam only have to pay him off. And that's where we'll start from right now. Amar Rav Ashi, which is about 10, 12 lines down from the bottom, down on the bottom of Tzadik Hema Beis. Amar Rav Ashi, Kavin Rav Kahana, when we were by Rav Kahana's house, Ibayalon, we had a question. Rav Shimon da Amar Lamechza L'Shlish U'Lerevia, who the Shakal Gazlan, the Gazlan gets a portion of the Shvach, Ki Misalkinin Lei, when you pay him off his third, let's say, or his quarter, or his share, B'dami Misalkinin Lei, you pay him in cash, but he doesn't get any of the shvach itself, or maybe he takes some of the meat of the animal. He gets part of the animal connected what he's entitled to. Upashtana, and we replace it shaila meha. There are three people that they're entitled to a portion, but the portion that we give them is not minei ubei of the item. We allow them to be paid off, and the conclusion is if these three people are paid off, a ganav is paid off as well. Ad kedekach, the Tosfos even asks, why doesn't the Gemara ask that we're missing? It should list off a gazlan if it's true that we're trying to draw the comparison and say that gazlan is the same halacha. Why didn't it list it? So Tosfos says a ton of a shire, and we always know that when the Tana leaves over something, he has to leave over a second thing as well. So Tosfos suggests it leaves over an aris as well. So let's see the three cases that Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel quoted that Shomanam is Hashvach Umal Nashim Bedam. Veiling Bechor Lepash. So Rashi explains very simply. There's a Bechor and a Pashut, and there's a piece of land that's worth, let's say, $12. So normally, if it's two brothers that are both not Bechoris, one brother gets half, which is 6, and the other brother gets half, which is 6. Here, since one of them is a Bechor, you split it into 3 portions of 4, and the Bechor will get $8 worth of the property, and the Pashut will get $4. Simple. But what if, before they split the property was Meshabeach, it grew Paris, and now instead of being worth 12, it's worth 24. So the question is, the first 12, we already know what the distribution is, 8 and 4. The second 12, the Bechor is not entitled to Pishnayim. So it should be 6 and 6. The problem is, when you split up the field 8 and 4, now the Bechor is going to end up getting Pishnayim of the Shvach as well, of the second set of 12. Because by definition, it's going to come along with the 2/3 of the land that he took. So in fact, he owes his brother 2, because if he took 8 and his brother took 4, in order to even it out, that it should be 6 and 6, he would have to give his brother $2. Now the question is, that $2 that he gives him, does he give him a piece of land equivalent to $2, or can he just pay him off with cash? Here we're learning that he can just pay him off with cash. It's the same thing if a lachav comes and takes away the property of a lakech, and he took the shvach with it. Now, when he pays back the lakech, does he leave him some property, or can he just give him cash? So we're learning here, he can just give him cash. The same thing if a lachav is staking the land of Yisayim, the Yisayim were mashpiach the karka after their father died, so the shvach is not liable to be paid to this malva. The Bachai pays him off. He doesn't say, okay, I'm going to leave you some karka. He could just pay the Yisayim with cash for the shvach of the field that he's taking. Beautiful. So Amar Lei Ravina Ravashi. Ravina challenged Ravashi. So we already have our tshuva to our shaila that you pay off with cash. Now we have independent shaila on this halacha that we just quoted, and we're drilling down. Amar Lei Ravina Ravashi. Mi Amar Shmuel Bachayv L'Lakech Yoiv L'Shvach. So now we're focusing on one of the examples that Rav Nachman and Shmuel paskin that a b'chayv pays l'keich shvach. Is that so? Miyamer Shmuel b'chayv l'keich yoiv l'shvach. Miyamer Shmuel taught us another halacha. B'chayv goyv is a shvach. The b'chayv gets to take the shvach from the l'keich and doesn't have to pay back a penny. As Rashi says in the second to the last line, goyv is a shvach. V'nei machzor l'keich klum. I don't know. He actually can take that as part of his payment, even though that shvach was not there when the lakech purchased the field from the loiva. It's not shver. There's 2 types of shvach. Kan b'shvach hamagi l'ksavim, v'chan b'shvach she'ein magi l'ksavim. It's a machlokes Rashi and Tosfos how to learn this. But Rashi's pshat is shvach hamagi l'ksavim means going tfua. If it's fully grown tfua, that we consider is not part of the karka, and it belongs to the lakeach. It's as if it's tolish. That the lakeach gets. But the shvach that's still growing, it's wheat that's still growing on the property, and therefore it's still part of the property. That's the part of the shvach that the malva can take. The Yeshua clarifies it to Emperor Rashi. From Tosfos' difficulties is it actually 3 levels. There's partly grown produce, which is definitely part of the karka. There's fully grown produce, which we're going to soon see can go either way. And then there's produce that should be cut already. That we look at it like it's cut and harvested, and it's like pears in a bag sitting on the field that surely the malva cannot seize from the lekech. So let's see how the chips fall. So when Shmuel said that the bachlev is goyim is shvach, that shvach shein megilach sofim, meaning it's still growing, it's still partially growing, and that Shmuel is telling us mal nashabadomim is when it's megilach sofim. Amar lei. The problem is, Ravina asked, there are stories every day. We find that Shmuel was taking away from the lekeach fields and the produce in the fields, even if it was fully grown. And this is where the Pnei Yeshua comes in, because if it's fully grown, it's mamish like it's harvested, like in a bag on the field. How could Shmuel take away something that surely belongs to the lekech and pay the malva with it? There it is. Even magil l'ksofim means it's still growing, it's still on the field. We don't look at it yet like it's harvested yet. So there's a point where we consider it already harvested. That's not what this Gemara is talking about. This is fully grown tefua, but still part of the field. Yet we saw that Shmuel did take. So how can you say that Shmuel does not? We know that he does. That's not fair. Why? That you're talking about, where even though it's fully grown, it's not considered harvested, it's still considered part of the field. Yes, the lekech, the malva can take that away from the lekech, but that's only if the malva is owed that much money. So, for instance, the malva is owed $100,000. But the field is worth $100,000 by itself, and if you add the produce that's connected to it, there's an extra $15,000 there. If the malva is owed kishir ara ushvacha, he's owed $115,000. Yes, then he can take the pears. But hadaloi masak bay ela kishir ara. If he's only owed $100,000 and the field with the shvach is worth $115,000, surely he cannot seize all that property. He cannot take more money than what he's actually owed. Amar lei. So Ravina said back, Shapir. The halach is someone bought a property, and now in malva, the malva of the person who sold him this property, the malva of the vendor, comes and says, "Your vendor owes me money. I'm taking the field." Now, what happens if the purchaser says, "No, I don't want to give you the field. How much does he owe you? $100,000? I'll pay you off in cash. I don't want to give the field." Does the lekeach have a right to do that? You might say the field itself is meshubah to the malva, and the malva could say, "No, I want that field." Or could the lekeach say, "No, you don't have a right to the field. Here's cash. You're getting paid back. I want to keep the field." So if in fact the lekeach never has the option to pay off the bachlev, Shaper, all of that we said that up until now makes a lot of sense. If you hold that whenever a lekeach happens to have cash, he can always deflect the bachlev and say, "Here's the cash. Don't take my property away." Well, here I have shvach, lemalei. In a case where the shvach was more than what was owed, because we just made a distinction. If the property is worth $100,000, the malva is owed $100,000, but there's $15,000 or $20,000 of shvach on it, then the lekeach could tell the malva, "You cannot take the shvach." And as we learned on Amud Beis, the malva would have to pay off the lekeach. So the malva is owed $100,000. He takes a property that with the shvach is worth $120,000, and then he'll have to pay off the lekeach with $20,000 in cash. Why? If you hold that if the lekeach has cash, he can pay off the malva. In this case as well. In this case, he has cash because the shvach is worth more than a loan. If I had cash, I would have paid you off and not let you take any of the land. Hashta, now I have some cash because I have the value of my shvach that you want to take away. Well, don't pay me off with $20,000 for my shvach with cash. Rather, havli give you a da'ira shir shvachoi. What you should do is, instead of taking the whole property, leave me a little piece that would be worth $20,000. And the lekeach should have a right to do that because we hold now according to the Shita, that if I had cash, if Lakech had cash, he could deflect the malva. So why is it that we pass in here on based in the name of Shmuel that the malva can take the whole property and then just pay the Lakech off for the shvach that the Lakech is entitled to? You're right. In a normal shibud field, say the Lakech can pay off the malva, and if he doesn't have money, but there's shvach there that the Lakech is entitled to keep, he can use that to pay off the malva. The case where we would take away the field from the Lakech and allow the malva just to pay off the Lakech in cash for the shvach, is speaking where this field was designated by the original loiva as an apoitik. Thank you so much. Where the loiva says, where the loiva said lo yehelach piroin elamizu, the amar lo yehelach piroin elamizeh, which means this field has been designated to be given to the malva. Since the malva has a right to this field because it was designated to him, there he gets to take the whole property and he pays off the lakech for the shvach. But in fact, in a regular case of shibud, if you hold that the lakech can pay off the choy and retain the property, surely if there was shvach there, he would be able to demand a piece of the property as payment for the shvach. Beautiful. So now we finished with this sugya of a ganav being meshabech something, shinakoina, we have all the different shitas, and in Reb Shimon we know where the ganav is entitled to mechsel shlisha revia, we learned that he could be paid off with cash. And in the case of a lachoiv, which is a new halacha not related to our sugya, in the case of a lachoiv, if a lakech can pay off with cash, the lakech could always demand property for the shvach, unless it was in the poitiki. Okay, gewaltig. We're up to a new sugya now. Oh, thank you very much. Amar Rava, Gazal v'hishbiach u'bachar. A guy stole. The Gazlan was mishbiach the property, umachar, and he sold it. Or v'gazal v'shbiach, and then he died, v'hayrish, and it went to his children. So the halach is masha shbiach machar, masha shbiach hayrish. Zok Rashi, masha shbiach v'shakol lakeach mechze oishlish ayravia. So according to Reb Shimon, if the Gazlan would have been caught in his lifetime or before he sold the property, what would have happened? The kaka with the Paris, or the animal with the shvach, would go back to the lakeach, to the nigzal, and the nigzal would have to pay up whatever share he would have to give to the Gazlan, the mechel shish revia. So therefore, if a Gazlan was mashbiach and he sold it, then and now the nigzal is coming to seize the property away from the lakeach, he would pay the lakeach the same thing that he would have had to pay the Gazlan. So v'shakol lakeach mechza shlish revia v'chen yoresh inami kula shvacha kamasnisen mivnei tekanos hashavin kedam mil mishmaitz kamaisa. Or if you hold a kameir, then the all the shvach goes back to the bailam, and that's what would happen. But whatever the case is, whatever you paskin to the Gazlan would also occur to the person who bought it from the Gazlan. Okay, Gavalti. Boy Rava, what about a shpiach lakeach? What if the lakeach was mishpiach the property? What is the halacha about the nigzal coming and taking it away? So Zok to Gemara, Hada Pashta, right after he was clearing the Shiloh, he was put to Shiloh. Ma'amocha Rishon and Lasheni kol schush shetov elion. Whatever would have happened to the Ganav, that's what happens to the Nigzal, to the Lakeach. Let's see Rashi. The Gazlan, I Ashbach. If the Gazlan was mashpechet, have a shakol mechza or shlisha revia, hachanami ki Ashbach Lakeach. If Lakeach was mashpechet, shakol mechza or shlisha revia. And of course, Dr. Rashi, Valiba de Reb Shimon, this is only consistent according to Reb Shimon. Because it's only according to Reb Shimon where it gets Mechsa, Shlish, or Hervia. Okay, gewaltig. Zog to Gemara. Boy Rava, Hishbich oivet kachavima. What if the Gazlan sold it to a guy, and the guy was mashpich? Would it make a difference that Lakeach is a guy? Amalei Rab Achmed Difti Ravina. Takanta lo'ovid kechavim neku v'navad. I don't understand. Why should the whole there's a takana really mikadin the shvach goes back to the bailam? We made a takana, I guess, so that we can help out the Goslin. He should get a little bit something for his efforts. The mechzer l'shlish or l'revia. That will do for a yid. Why would we do it for a guy? Amalei, you're right. For sure, a guy would just have to give it back with the shvach and wouldn't get anything. Loy tzricha k'lo Israel. The case was that the guy now, after he was mashpiachet, he sold it to a yid. So the question is, maybe the yid should be entitled to the mechza l'shlish or revia. Correct, Gemara. That wouldn't. There's no way that could transfer because the yid never got it. If the guy never had it and he's buying it from the if the guy never had it and the yid's buying it from the guy, how does the yid get it? Saif haba machmas ovid kechavim hareyu ka'ovid kechavim. If the ovid kechavim shvach was never going to be retained by the guy, it was going to go back to the nigzal. Just because the guy sold it to a yid, the yid could only buy from the guy what the guy had. The guy didn't have that right to retain the shvach. So that cannot be the shaila either. So loy tzricha, you know what our shaila is? When the Gazal Yisrael, a yid stole it, v'zavna nahalei, and he sold it to a guy, v'shbicha oived kechavim, and the oived kechavim was mishbichit, v'hadar oived kechavim v'zavna Yisrael. So I made a mistake in the first case. I don't know if I made it clear. In the case that we just learned, where the yid bought it from the guy, it's speaking where the guy stole it and sold it to a yid. I'm sorry? Yeah, the guy stole it. I'm sorry, the guy stole it and then was mishpechet and then sold it to the yid. There, the yid for sure wouldn't have a right to the mechzus raviyah. It could be an animal as well. Right. So now the question here is: a yid stole it. He sold it to a guy. The guy bought it from the yid with the yid's right to the mechzus raviyah. He was mashbiachit. Now we don't want to help out a guy, but then v'hada oived kechavim v'zavna Yisrael. So when the nigzal is coming to take it back, there's a yid who he's taking it back from. What do we say? Miyamrin, do we say kiven to me kara Yisrael v'hada Yisrael? Since the ganav was a Yisrael, and now the person who's dealing with a seizure is a Yisrael. Of the rabbanon takanta, the rabbanon will make a takana, and at least he will get mechza shlish arivia. Idilma kiven the ika oived kechavim be'emtza. That takana evaporates. Of the layer upon takan, that the Gemara says, take who? I'm sorry?
One of the cases the guy bought it, stole it, right?
The guy bought it from a yid. That's the case we're talking about now. A yid stole it, and the guy bought it from the yid. Why would there be a Kiddush Hashem here? If No, because everyone knows the secular law is that if you're caught with stolen goods, they just take it away from you and put you in jail. They don't give you any value for your mashbiach. So we're not treating him less than what he would be expected to be treated in the shuk. Amar Papa.
He had the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem compensating him.
Amar Papa. Hi man, the Gazal Dikla Mechavri. Someone stole the decal from his friend, which means he actually went into someone's property, chopped down someone's tree, and is carrying it out. Now, there must be a value of it in wood, because otherwise, what good is it if he chops it down? So the loch is, today, even though he already moved it from the property of the nigzal, and it's already in his property, loy kani, the gazlan is not koine. There was no shinui. Even though you chop down the tree, that's not called a shinui on a tree. My timer, mekar dikla mikri. Now it's called a dekel. It's called a palm tree. It's still called a palm tree, a cut palm, but it's still a palm. What about dikla v'ovid gubi? What are gubi? They're boards.
Because the name didn't change.
That's not considered a shinui.
It can.
That's not called a shinui. Yeah, it's not called a shinui. So what does Rashi say? Gubi is trinkish. The lawyer is a Rashi says on trinkish pirish chatichos. He made it into pieces of wood. So he further chopped down the trunk into smaller pieces. Loikani, that's not either a kinyan. It's not either a shinoi. Hashtamia gubi the diklamikri. What are they called? They're called chopped up. It's a chopped up palm tree, so it's still called a palm tree. But guvi vav dinukshuri. But once you already make it into boards, there it's not so noticeable where it comes from. Now it's already a board. Kani, because now it's a board. Kshuri ravarvi vav dinin kshuri zotri. What if you started with big boards, you stole big boards, and you made it into smaller boards? Loikani, you're not kind. What about avdinu kitzutzaisa? You made it into kitzutzaisa, was karoshim, which is, it's not just a board, it's already formed into a beam, I guess. I'm not sure what the difference is. Kani, then you would be kind because that would be considered a distinct change of state. Amarava.
Here, the first one was logs into beams, and this is big beams into soil.
Right, and then what's after that? Then there's small beams into kitzutzaisa. What's kitzutzaisa? That's the last case.
Two boards.
Sorry?
Boards.
The boards. Okay, so it's different cuts, different sizes. Okay, Zok the Gemara weiter. Amar Rabbi Haiman, the Gazel Luliva, he stole a lulav. And now we're going to get into Hilchos Arbaminim a little. The Gazel Luliva, Bavdina Hutzi, which means he tore off the branches off the lulav. So the lulav had a whole bunch of leaves, he tore each leaf off. So now he made it into like individual brooms. Kani. The Mikar Luliva Mikri, it was first called a lulav. Vashta Hutzi. What about Hutzi Bavdinu Chufya? How do you make it from Hutzi to Chufya? So Rashi says, Shaboy Mechabn Sabayis V'choylik Kalutza L'shnayim. So we know every leaf of a lulav is folded in half. So what if you pulled apart the two halves? So that's how you make a Chufya. Kani will be kind of, because Meikar Hutzi Vashta Chufya. What if Chufya Bavdi Shashura? Somehow you took these individual reeds and you sort of made them into a rope. I mean, we see that people make all fancy loops and crowns and kashiklach out of these lulav things. So you made something with it. Vaitalekani. You know why? The hadar sasarle. Now I can tell you this is a very shver gemara, because if I went and opened up and undid someone's kashikal, I think he'd kill me, right? So it wouldn't be too hard. The vice versa, since you could still take it apart and make it back into a reed, although a crunched up one, it's not considered a shin. The other sasale, about the chufya, he can make it back into a chufya. So here's where we get into Hilchos Arbaminim. Boy Rav Papa, nechleka hatiyomis ma'u. What would be the halacha if the tiyomis was split? What is the definition of a tiyomis? So Rashi here says a small one-liner, kaf toimer hamtzoyha elyon tiyumasi. The upper center one, which I think is what we call the tiyomis. So let me just read the Gemara, and I want to go back to Tosfos, because Tosfos is a whole different set of palm trees. Tashma, the Amar Reb Mosan, Amar Reb Shuban Levi, nitla tiyomis posel legabe lulav. If the tiyomis was removed completely, it would be a posel of lulav. My love, who would in the even if it was split, it would also be posel of lulav. And if it's a posel of lulav, Zok Rashi on top of Amud Beis, the Chivan the Leinin Psul Mivsala, since it was posel of lulav, Leinin Makne Nami Shinu Hivakan. Whatever would posel of lulav would be considered a kinyan. Zok Gemara, Loi Nitla Shiny, the Hachasala, it's totally missing. But if it's merely nechlaka, it wouldn't be a problem. So I just want to, let's just learn one more line. Ikadami, there are those who said that this question went down a little differently. It's nasla kamisha nakla upas shmamida. So the question is if nechlaka would be considered like nitla, and would it be possible, and therefore would it be a kinyan? Okay, so you see over here a shaila if nechlaka tiyumas bechlal is even possible, right? Maybe only nitla is possible. So this is relevant to Hilchos Arbaminim. But I just want to look at Tosfos, because Tosfos has a very interesting situation over here that I myself don't understand. But being that it has value, like I've been understanding Arbaminim, it would be interesting. So let me quickly read Tosfos. Matzari b'tshuvas haga'onim. The re found in the tshuvas haga'onim. Let me just look at the Bach, because it is relevant. Nechlaka, which was going nechlaka hatiyomis. It was Nechleka to Yomis, Oisai Hutza Ha'elyon. What are we referring to? We're referring to the Hutza Elyon, the very top leaf, Baroy Shalula, She'ein Hutza Lamaila Himenu. So that's what we call the Yomis as well. But look what he says over here. Vukishnei Hutzin to Vukin Zebazeh. It would be two leaves. We have only one leaf on top. There's two leaves on top, is what the Chuvas HaGoyim is talking about. There would be two leaves on top, V'nikroin to Yomis, and those two together are called the Yomis. Let me finish inside. V'chein mashma mitoich halachas gedolos, I think. Sharoitzim lefarish kain, they want if I touch you that way. Ula devrayim, based on what they're saying, is at the top of every lulav has to have two leaves up there. Lo yimotzi lanu lulav kosher. We'll never find a lulav kosher because whoever saw a lulav like that, kibetoyach nimtzoyin oisoi sheyosh lehem tiyomis kazeh. Afilu echad behemayis. Even the 1 in 500, most of them have a single leaf at the top, not two leaves at the top. So if a normal lulav is having two leaves at the top, it's very unlikely to ever have a kosher lulav. Therefore, the Ri, I guess, wants to disagree. They don't mean to say that you need to have a double tiyomis up on top for it to be kosher. They're just saying if that's what you happen to have had, and they got split, then it will be puzzle because it changed from the way it was created. But a normal lulav of the one tiyomis would be good enough. Well, the Kudus Pirish, our Rashi said, Nechlek at the Yomis, Shnei Alin al Yoinim Emtsoyim, Sheshem Kol Shedra. No, our Rashi does not say that. Our Rashi says, Kaf Toimer Emtoyim. So it must be Rashi somewhere else. Says also that there's two leaves there. That's where the spine of the lulav ends. Nechlek Hazamizeh, V'nistaga Shedra, and it caused that the Shedra itself, the hard portion of the center of the lulav was split ad ha'alin shalamatamihen, down to the connection of where the next leaves connect to. So it's not just the leaves splitting; it's actually the spine of the lulav splitting. Mutoich parusha mashma, and from the parish of Rashi mashma shenistaga shedra kol kach nechlaka requires that it should be so far split down. It almost looks like there are two different lulavim, and it takes that much of a split in order to pass lulav. But the real, so that's just a comment that Tosfos is pointing out. You should know Rashi sheet is mekel when it comes to a split lulav because it's got to be pretty split to be the pasla. The Yesh Mefarshim shekol alei halulav kfulin kolechad l'shnayim. We know that all of the leaves of the lulav are folded over. They're a double leaf. The yesh beroish halulav b'soif hashedra beis alon yotzin mimena. At the top of the shedra, there are two leaves that come out of the top of the shedra. Shekol echad kafel l'shnayim. Each one of those two leaves are split. Kishar ali halulav, just like any of the other leaves on the lulav. But oisan shnayim al na yotzin beroish hashedra nikroin tiyomis. That's what the tiyomis is. This sounds very much like a Chuvas HaGoyim. Ahahani boy, and that is the shaila of our Gemara today of Nechlek at Yomis Ma'u. In Nechlek Huzemizeh, what does it mean that you were split one from the other? And Tzas min HaShedra. Part of the Shedra got split. Most of our lulavim are not found that way. As we know, there's only one leaf at the top. The boy, the shaila is the Mishtakach Kagavna to Yomis, if you found something like this from Nechlek Ma'u, which seems to be how the Reef are touched the Bahag and the Chuvas HaGoyim. So I just thought that was just an interesting twist on things because I never knew about a Siamese lulav where it has two leaves at the top. We only see one. Okay, Gavalti. Zok Heilige, she used to be much more familiar with these Tulum and Lulav. Nowadays, it's just a matter if you want to buy Sug Aleph, Sug Beis, or Sug Gimel, it's all prepackaged. Okay, Zok Gemara, it used to be much more fun. Zok Gemara Vata. I remember I was once buying an Esrig when I was in Israel. So I didn't know it. I didn't know it's flying. I was looking at it. I know what I'm looking at. So I take an Esrig, I'm looking at it. I didn't know if it was good. But there's a guy there by the name of Morgenstern. He's probably a big Kanakar today. But then he was like the Mishamish of Rabbi Yashiv. He was like his right hand man. He would always, he would be the one there getting shimish from him. So I showed it to him. What did he say to this Esrik? He says, that's pretty good. If you don't want it, I'll take it. That's all I needed to hear. Amr Papa. Hi, man. What he meant was he was going to take it to put into his compost. But I didn't have to know that. I was happy. Amr Papa. Hi, man. The Gozel Afra Mechavre. He stole earth. He stole earth from his friend. Va'abdi Levinta. And he made it into a brick. Loikon, he's not kind. My time, Afra. He could just bust it up. It'll become earth again. How about Levinta Vavdafra? What if he stole a brick and he broke it down into earth? Koni, that is a shini, the opposite way. My Amrit, Dilma Hadar Ba'avid Leis Levinta. He could make a brick again out of that same earth. Hi Levinta Achriti. That's not the same brick, it's a different brick. Upanim Chadash is Boilaka. And it's Panim Chadashis. So if you don't have anybody by Shaver Brachas, you can just bring a brick and you have good Panim Chadash. Someone stole a block of silver from his friend. And he made it into coins. Loikon is not coin. My time, he can very easily put it back into a block of silver.
Ruin it faster than
How about Zuzi Vavdinu Nascha? What the opposite? He stole Zuzim and he melted them down. Kani very well be coin. My Amrit, how do Avidu Zuzim can make it again into Zuzim? Same svara upon him Chadosh is Bolachan. How about Shchimi Vavdinu Chadid? He had all tarnished and he cleaned it up. He made them nice and shiny. Loikon is not clean because it's not enough of a change. If he had nice clean ones and he made them dirty or tarnished, I'm not sure how you would do that. You can clean it up again. Made the idea shechmayu. Even when you clean up the tarnished coin, you could tell that it was once tarnished and therefore it's permanently changed. Which is the last line in our Mishnah, that all Gazlan pay Kashas Gzela, meaning they keep a shinoi and they keep the shvach. What that the Mishnah has not already listed are we referring to? We discussed cases of shvach. What if you sold a tleh and it grew up, it became an aisle? Or egel, a calf, and nasa shor, that's also considered a shinoi. Nasa shinoi b'yodi v'kanoi, and therefore, if you make tvichu mechira, tavichu mecher, there's no chiv to pay the al. Hey, you got shaloi hu toiveach, shaloi hu mecher. Who gathered the gazel padna the Torah mechaver. He stole a pair of oxen from his friend. Ozal harabu karva. He plowed his field, zarbu zara. So he benefited greatly from these animals, although he didn't actually be meshabeach the animals themselves, but he got great shavach from the animals. And then he gave him back. Also, look at my Reb Nachman. He went to Reb Nachman. The owner went to Reb Nachman and said, hey, I want compensation. He used my animal without permission. Listen, your field benefited $10,000. You got to give him $10,000 over the top, on top of the animals you gave him back. I don't know Turi Ashbach, Aralei Ashbach. Did the ox themselves become better? No, the land is the shvach. But why should he get that land? Omar, I didn't mean that all of the benefit that the Ganav had from the animals that he has to pay. No. I meant if he benefited $10,000, he should at least give half of that, 5,000 to the thing so. But the problem is, where did that hitzchayvus come from? He stole, he gave it back. What do you want? Why should he have to pay $5,000 extra? Because he used it. So now he was already getting frustrated because
Appreciation.
I guess there was no appreciation. There wouldn't be depreciation. Maybe it's good for an to work. And the Gemara discusses that soon about that depreciation. So Reb Nachman says, like, why are you pestering me? Reb Nachman paskin, and Rav is pestering him. Stop pestering me. Didn't I tell you, Rav, already? When I'm sitting in Din Torah, don't interrupt me. And you're not worried that maybe I don't know what I'm doing? Trust me, I know what I'm doing. The Amar Huna Chavin said upon me that I know Shvar means Shmuel. Achai Bedina. We're both brothers in Din. We know what we're talking about. So back off a little. But you want to know why I'm awarding the Nigs all this money? Because the Gazlan is a bad guy. Hi Inish Gazlan Atikahu. He's an old Gazlan. He's always stealing. And I have to teach him a lesson. I got to throw the book at him. So you're right. He shouldn't have to pay anything. He gave back to animals. But the fact is, I got to teach him a lesson. I guess he's allowed to. They have that power. Goes al behema viskina. What if you stole an animal and the animal got old? Or avadim viskinu. The halach is mishalim kishas gzela. You're kind of those older, depleted resources, and you got to pay back. We already learned this Mishnah a couple of days ago, and we learned this because avadim kekarka, and you never coin a karka. Gazal matbeya v'nistak. So there's a noticeable damage to the matbeya. It's split. Perish v'erkiva, they rotted. Yain v'hichmitz mishalim kishas gzela, because that's considered a shina. How about matbeya v'nifsal? It just means the government stopped using this currency, but physically there's no change on it. Truma v'nitmis, the same thing. Or again, there's a change of status, but no change to the actual item. Behema v'nis avdo ba'aver, so now it's chayv misa. Oisha nifsal me'algab mizbeach, or it's not possible from being brought in the mizbeach. Oisha yoytza lisaka, who's going to get killed. Oimela hareshal chalav hanech. There we say hareshal chalav hanecha. It's a hezuk sheninikar. Amar Papa lo yeskina haskina mamish. It doesn't necessarily mean that the animal became old and that's the shinui. Alafilu kichsha. Even if it just became weaker without being older, that also is enough of a shinui where the Ganav can no longer give it back. For Gemara, the skina tnan. The dasa skina. If the Gemara kichsha kagoyin skina dlehadabe. It just means it has to be the type of weakening that you don't just fatten up the animal and it's back to where it was before. It has to mean permanent, like age. Age is permanent. You can't reverse aging. No matter what the cosmetics and companies tell you. If you look at Tlev Nasa Ayel, Egel Nasa Shor, Nasa Shinu Biyadai, the Kanai, Tavachu Mochar, Shaloihu Toiveach, Shaloihu Mochar, like we learned. Amalei, Lava Minalach. Didn't I tell you, Loi Sachlif Gavri? Don't mix up sources when you're quoting something. So you just quoted this in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan never said it. Who mishmei to Rabbi Loyi? It was Rabbi Loyi who said this, not Rabbi Yochanan. Be careful to quote things from their proper author. Halacha Reb Meir, the halacha is like Reb Meir. So what does Reb Meir say? Let's get it clear. Reb Meir says that everywhere else you say Shinus Koina except by Avadim. Would Rav not paskin like the Roiv, like the Rabbanon, and go with a Shittis Yochid and paskin like Reb Meir? Amri Mishum de Braisa Ipchatanya. We're going to have a Braisa that's going to attribute what our Mishnah attributes to Reb Meir, the Braisa attributes to the Rabbanon. So with Rav Mendel, the paskin like Reb Meir in our Mishnah, which is really the Rabbanon Shita, but I have the Braisa who says it for cure. If you have a Mishnah that quotes it one way, and a Braisa that quotes it the opposite way, don't you give more weight to the Mishnah? Zaktamar true, but Rav Masnisen Nami Ipchatani. He actually hold up. Since we see the Braisa is different, he swapped the Mishnah too. So the question is going to come up soon. If he swapped the Mishnah too, so you should pass like Rabbanon, not like Rameir, right? The more going to ask that. My time with the Rav, the Abak Masnisen will come in the Braisa. Why would you change the Mishnah to make it parallel to the Braisa? Adrab and Nepech LeBraisa become in the Masnisen. If anything, change the Braisa to conform with the Mishnah. Ami, because Rav Nami Masnisen Ibchasne. He found, Rav actually independent of the Braisa. Independent of the Braisa, Rav saw need to change the Mishnah. Or you could say, when do you say that a Mishnah takes precedent to a Braisa? That's if there's only one Braisa again. But if there's two Braisas that are opposing a Mishnah, then you will defer to the two Braisas. Where's the second Braisa? The Tanya we learned, Hamachlev Por B'Chamor V'Yolda. Now let's stop here because it's already 6:50 and this is already getting a little bit more involved. So we'll stop here, Raz Hashem, and we'll be Bamshach tomorrow. And once again, I want to welcome Rabbi Levi. It's a very big cover to be sitting in the presence of Rabbi Levi. Sai Rabbi Levi Minei Ubei, and Sai Rabbi Levi brings with him the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. So it's a great honor. Thank you so much for joining. And whenever Rabbi Levi has something Gishmak to tell us, Rabbi Levi always has gewaltige thoughts about the Matzah of Eretz Yisrael. We always want to hear what Rabbi Levi's thoughts are on any subject. So please don't be shy.